demonstration vouchers. Today's topic is the meat industry. Well, we have me first with a presentation about the demonstration vouchers. Then we have a presentation from Ken Stockhill from Central Solutions and Barry O'Donovan from ADP. I don't know who's moving their mouse, but please don't move your mouse. And they will give a presentation about the technology and the technology used. Excuse me, but can you please not use your mouse if you are scrolling? Thank you. Okay. So yeah, they will give a presentation about resource efficiency in the meat factories and how they did that in Ireland. Well, as I said, the webinar will be recorded, and if you have any questions, you can submit them through the chat, which is on the right of your screen. The presentations and the questions will be published on the VIDA website, and I have to say that this webinar is informative and subject to approval of the European Commission until the voucher program is actually published on the website of the European Commission. Well, first some key facts about VIDA. The project runs from April 2018 till March 2021 and is a funding project to support SMEs and their innovations. The total budget is 4.5 million euros and 3.3 million euros will be directly provided to SMEs to support their innovations. The project is run by 10 partners from 7 EU countries, and 8 of those are cluster organizations, and the goal of the VIDA project is to support resource efficiency in the food value chain. As I mentioned, there's 10 VIDA partners. Here you can see the logos. I will come back in a minute and where they're based and which countries are part of VIDA. So first, the funding schemes. VIDA has 3 different funding schemes or voucher programs. The first is the here we go, Innovation Support Voucher and the Validation Voucher. Well, there are actually 2 vouchers, but and they have been explained in the first webinar. And we will focus today on the demonstration voucher. So who can apply for the VIDA voucher schemes in general? Any country or any company that has the SME status according to the SME definition of the European Union. That means employees, the company employs fewer than 250 persons, has an annual turnover of maximum 50 million euros, and a balance sheet of no more than 43 million euros. The applicants need to be active in the industries as given below: the food production chain, water technology supply chain, energy technology supply chain, or the key enabling technology supply chain. And they must be a member of a VIDA cluster or headquartered in one of the VIDA regions. And they have to declare financial stability. So as said, there's 10 partner organizations. They're based in the countries, as you can see here, which are Denmark, the Netherlands, Germany, the Czech Republic, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. So now I'll move on to the demonstration voucher. The demonstration voucher is a joint project between one SME in the well, sorry, excuse me. It's a voucher to fund technology innovations in the food supply chain, and proposals can be submitted by 2 or more SMEs in the food, water, energy, or key enabling technology industries. The project must involve a so-called challenge owner, which is an organization or company that has a challenge in the food supply chain and can facilitate space and testing space for the testing facilities. They have to address one common challenge, which will be described in the next slide. And other organizations can also join the project, but they're not eligible for EU funding through VIDA. And the innovations that we're looking at for this voucher are in the TRL range 6 to 8, which will also be on the next slide. Well, a later slide, sorry. So the food sectors we are aiming at, for example, are fish farming, soy milk processes, breweries, which have been already presented last week and will be presented next week in the next webinar, meat processing, which we touched on today, and some other industries which are depicted here. But as you can see in the slide, those are examples, and this list is not exclusive, so to say. So the demonstration voucher, there's at least 2 participants, 2 SMEs applying for this voucher, and together they can get a maximum funding of 250,000 euros and a maximum of 60,000 euros per partner. To give you an example, there's 2 applicant SMEs that are working with one research institution, and the first SME submits in the proposal 20,000 euros for personal costs, 2,000 for materials, and 18,000 for other costs, and together this is 40,000 euros. So this is within the range of 60,000 euros. And the other SME is applying for another 50,000 euros, which is also within the range. So together they can request a total of 19,000 funding through the VIDA demonstration voucher. Another example is 4 applicants. The first applies for 30,000 euros, the other one for 45,000 euros, and 2 others for 25,000 euros each. And together is a total of 150,000 euros. And none of the applicants is applying for more than 60,000 euros. So this is also an eligible proposal under the VIDA project. There will be 2 calls. I will touch upon that later in this presentation. And no, that's going too quick. I have the feeling. Sorry, there is a slide missing. Anyway, the first call will be open in February, the beginning of February, and will run until the end of March. And the second call will open in autumn this year. I believe that's September. So how do you learn and submit proposals, and how do you find partners? Well, there's VIDA webinars where companies can present their technologies. There will be international brokerage events. The first one will take place the first week of February in Zaragoza in Spain, where you can meet with other companies and try to get a consortium of SMEs to write a proposal. You can submit questions directly to your partner organization, which are part of VIDA. And eventually there's Clue5, an online platform that we use to where you can submit the proposals, but which you can also use to find partners for building a proposal. Well, I believe that's everything for so far. If there's any questions, as I said, we will take them at the very end. Now I would like to give over to Ken Stockwell and Barry O'Donovan from Central Solutions and ABP in Ireland, who will present their case and solutions in Ireland.
Okay, thanks, Matthias. Hopefully people can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, great. Just want to say thanks a lot for the opportunity to present, and certainly, I guess just in terms of what I'm going to cover is more of an introduction to some of the work that we're doing here, and I'll hand over to Barry, who will give you maybe some of more of the detail of some of the work that they've done in ABP Food Group here in Ireland, and maybe with some of the assistance from the wider community practice and ourselves. So if there are any questions, happy to deal with them, but at the end as appropriate, or even indeed if people have questions afterwards, quite happy if they want to follow up separately. So I just wanted to give you some context first of all in terms of what we do here in Ireland, Central Solutions do in Ireland, and also some of the types of projects and challenges that some of the member companies are faced with, and then look specifically maybe at some of the meat processing challenges and opportunities that we've seen over the last number of years in that sector. So just in Ireland, to give you some background on what was originally the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, Large Water Users Community Practice here in Ireland. It was established in about 2013, and the idea behind that initiative at a national level was to bring together a lot of the large water users nationally, either water being a significant resource in terms of their production capacity, or being a critical resource in the case of many pharma companies across Ireland. Membership is north of about 180 members at the moment. It's possibly just about over 200 in the next couple of months as we roll out a number of new initiatives. I guess just to give you some sense of how we work and who we work with. Here in Ireland, we've engaged in a number of national programs to roll out solutions for water, wastewater treatment and related resource efficiency initiatives across member companies. So, for example, at the moment we're working with Bord Iascaigh Mhara, who are the seafood processing agency, and looking at the rollout of a number of technologies in small to medium-sized seafood processing organisations that are faced with some water-related challenges, both in terms of their supply and ultimately their treatment. The tariffing regime in Ireland, some people may be aware, has changed and is changing quite dramatically with the establishment of a single utility, Irish Water, which has happened over the last number of years, and there's been quite a bit of political and organisational challenge presented by the setup of that entity. So the programme with Bord Iascaigh Mhara looks at improving and optimising the use of water and related resources such as energy, chemicals and human resources across their supply chain, but also in the company themselves. And for example, with Irish Water itself, we're about to launch a skills development programme nationally to upskill a lot of their client companies in terms of water stewardship, the European Water Stewardship Standard, and how they can use that as a framework for improving and optimising their internal water systems. So, moving swiftly on, what Matthias asked me to speak about particularly were around the challenges, and I felt maybe people on this webinar will be well familiar with some of the macro challenges in terms of the exploitation and contamination of fresh water, poor water use efficiency across many of the SME and larger companies due to legacy technologies and legacy water systems, a lack of financing for water projects. It's great to see initiatives like VIDA step in there to help some of the innovation and support some of that activity across SMEs in Europe. And we've also seen over the last number of years a lack of practical water management tools, particularly for SMEs and some of the larger water users, and it's something maybe I'll revisit a little bit later on. The end of that slide just gives you a sense of the scale of impact the community of practice has in Ireland. In terms of those 180 member companies, each of those use approximately an Olympic swimming pool of water per day, and represent about 30% of the overall use of water in Ireland. So it's quite a significant initiative and quite a significant group of member companies. And they range right through from Intel's to Aughanish Lumina's to Boston Scientific's, and then right through the food and beverage sector, which is probably the most active and proactive sector. So we're linked in quite strongly with Board BIA and the Origin Green initiative in Ireland, as well as some of the other national initiatives like SkillsNet, which is a training initiative in Ireland. And moving on then to maybe some of the specific challenges, and I think that's probably of particular interest to the people on this webinar, that we are seeing facing many of those companies. And again, they're a mix of SMEs plus larger companies. But what we embarked on in early 2018 was to bring a cross-section of those companies together and to map out the challenges that they saw facing their business in the years ahead from a water perspective, and what are both the technical and managerial challenges facing those companies. And what you see there is a list, and it's the top list of the common challenges that the companies were faced with, and I imagine many of these may resonate with people on this webinar. One of the most significant ones, and I'm going to move through them quite quickly, simply because I know we're constrained for time, but one of the most significant ones is around metering and monitoring solutions, and particularly low-cost solutions for site level and sub-site level metering in many of these organisations. Certainly in Ireland we found that the level of maturity of water management and water stewardship is at a relatively early stage when you compare it to something like energy management systems, which are quite advanced and quite mature in the marketplace. So we're certainly seeing some challenges around, significant challenges for individual SMEs around low-cost metering and monitoring solutions that are accurate, that are real-time, and that provide those companies with the intelligence to be able to take action then on the back of that baseline data. Certainly many of the companies and particularly the food and beverage companies would have raised the whole issue of water reuse and the opportunities to reuse water again on a cost-effective basis, and that cost equation is one that's quite key in the evaluation of any new technology. And likewise, wastewater treatment technologies, certainly many of the companies, many of them in rural and remote locations, for example, those seafood processing organisations would be in very remote locations, so having secure availability of water and good, robust wastewater treatment solutions for the longer term are significant challenges that they face. One area which is certainly from our perspective quite underdeveloped is around water quality sensors, and the ability, when you look at water, and again comparing it with energy management challenges, but water management challenges are significantly different in that you have to grapple not only with the quantity issue but also with the quality issue, and the availability of sensor technology that allows individual organisations grapple with that water quality issue, both from the health and safety perspective, from the business continuity perspective, and from the quality of water perspective when it comes to food production, but also pharmaceuticals, etc. Clean in place technologies and best practices bubbled up as a significant challenges for many of the organisations. And then some of the larger food and beverage companies certainly raised this issue around the perceived risk of water reuse in food production, and the need for greater public awareness and education in that space. And while that's a little bit different in terms of a common challenge, it's a very real challenge for many of these organisations that depend on water as a key component of their product. So certainly in that context, the ability to educate and articulate, that water reuse is safe and secure is very important. This next one is something that Barry may also speak to and mention in terms of the challenges that they face going forward, but the ability for organisations to demonstrate water neutrality and the ability for organisations to undertake robust water footprinting and complementary resource efficiency footprinting is seen as a key challenge. And some of the work that we've done with the seafood processing industry has been specifically around leveraging some technology to map out their water systems and specifically deal with some of those challenges. And again, the final point there, again, maybe not a technical solution, but certainly researching and piloting science-based targets for water across the food chain bubbled up as a significant challenge. So you can see there's quite a range of challenges there. Certainly plenty of opportunities across the group to assist and to help with some of those common challenges. And I suppose we're fortunate in that we have that very strong group of companies keen to progress and innovate on those specific areas. So I'm going to hand you over now to Barry. That was a very brief introduction to the community practice. I'm going to hand you over to Barry O'Donovan. We've been working with Barry for quite a number of years now on some of the challenges around water stewardship particularly, and some of the very significant, I suppose, innovations that the folks in ABP have achieved, and also some of the recognition that they've achieved under the European Water Stewardship certification process. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Barry.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken. And again, I hope you can all hear me first of all before I continue. Are we all good to go? Yeah, excellent, perfect. Okay, so look, again, like Ken, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak here on this webinar. To give you a small bit of background, I'm involved in all elements of resource efficiency within ABP Food Group, and to give you a bit of an idea of exactly who we are and what we do, you'll see some statistics from our company, and I suppose at our core we are a beef processing company, but we're also involved in lamb and indeed some pork products as well. We own the largest privately owned pet food company in Europe, C&D Foods. We operate a rendering business in the Republic of Ireland, and we also have a renewable division in the UK where we take in used cooking oil and refine it into biodiesel, and that company is called Olico, based in the UK. We also operate a number of large anaerobic digester plants through that company, and we see an awful lot of vertical integration between our businesses and between our operations, in that the byproducts from our pet food, for example, goes into our rendering business and vice versa. So there's a lot of connection, and indeed when it comes to resource consumption and resource efficiency, there's an awful lot of interaction between our sites, not least where we share effluent treatment plants and different kind of actions like that. So my remit is within all of these divisions and within sites from all of these particular operations, so it's quite extensive. And when we look, I suppose, at some of the challenges that we face, I've outlined one or two of them there, and it's quite we're very typical, I guess, of the agri-food business, of the agri-food sector. We're a large water user, and we have an important role to play, not just in our facility, but also throughout the supply chain, and I'll touch on that a little bit over the course of the next few slides. Obviously, one of the key elements and one of the key challenges that faces us is that water energy nexus, or that water energy connection that we see in our processing facilities. And this is driven by a hot water demand at all of our sites for both hygiene and sterilization. We're a relatively high water user, and the majority of the time that water is hot, and that's heated typically with fossil fuels. So when we look at water and we look at water reductions, obviously we have the added benefit of reducing our fossil fuel, our natural gas consumption, and that's very important for us. And Ken touched on a couple of items, and I suppose one of the key elements that we've tried to develop, and indeed with the help of Ken and the community of practice that he spoke about, was looking at a true cost model. So looking at every element of our water, looking at all the inputs, not just from an energy point of view, but chemicals and indeed pumping around our facility, and we're able to establish a true cost per cubic meter. Again, that's driven by accurate water distribution, and this feeds in again to metering and monitoring and understanding the water layout and water distribution at our facilities. And again, this has all been driven by our connection with Ken and his organization. knowledge transfer is certainly vitally important for us, and we feel this as an important element in terms of, you know, delivering low cost reductions in terms of water and energy consumption. It's also important, obviously, in helping staff understand water issues, and indeed that link between water and energy, and understanding that, you know, the extra benefits that we can deliver from water management and water reductions. And what we try and do with our knowledge transfer, rather than saying, you know, we bought a new boiler on one site, let's go and buy a new boiler everywhere else. That's not very cost effective, or that's not going to get much buy-in from our top management. What we're looking to do is share good practices and ways to reduce our energy across all of our sites. And indeed, one of the others, and arguably the biggest challenge facing our sector, is obviously climate change, and all the information that's in the media and indeed academia at the minute. You know, but what's important, and again, it goes back to helping people understand how does this manifest itself in either your country or your region, because, you know, when people think of climate change, they think of melting ice caps and they think of increased temperatures. But, you know, in Ireland, for example, it's probably going to manifest itself in a very short period of time in terms of hotter, drier summers and, you know, colder, wetter winters. And that's going to have, you know, a significant impact on our ability to produce food, on our ability to have livestock out on grass for the time period you want, to spread sludge and other material onto the land. And that's, you know, that significantly impacts our ability as a country to actively, you know, produce agri-food products. If we look at some of our corporate targets, and they're outlined there, and not least the one in the middle of 50% water reduction, and these are all targets for 2020, set against a baseline of 2008. And this demonstrates, I guess, in some ways, you know, top management buy-in, and this is certainly on their agenda. You know, they're interested in how we're performing, but they're also interested in how we're going to deliver on these reduction targets. And indeed, we're looking to set longer-term targets onto 2030 and 2050. So some of the ways that we, I guess, face the challenges certainly is to standardize our approach. So we have implemented a whole series of accreditation and certification across a number of areas. And I'm not going to go through these in detail. You're surely aware of some of them. And obviously one of the key ones that we've implemented has been the European Water Stewardship Standard. We were the first facility, the first food processing facility to achieve it, I think, in 2015 or 2016. I'm not so sure of the year. And we then became the pilot company for a multi-site approach, which we did indeed achieve in 2017, and we've also achieved the gold standard across the board. So again, that demonstrates an involvement. That gold standard is driven by an inherent, I suppose, willingness throughout the company to interact with resource efficiency across the board. This standardization is also important for training. It's often a single use of information in a particular resource, particularly in water or energy, and they link extremely well together. When we look at the EWS standard, it certainly helps us optimize our water use in terms of quality, quantity, also looking at reduction initiatives. It's also framed our overall strategy, and it focuses us on the wider impact on of the water environment around our site. And indeed, when you look at the end, the last point, you know, considering science-based targets, they're very much a climate change and CO2 reduction model, but, you know, we're also looking at the a similar approach for water, and indeed, as Ken alluded to, looking at water neutrality. Within our business, we don't actually consume any water. The water we take in, we put out, and we're trying to, I suppose, assess that input and I guess, accredit ourselves to water neutrality if that's possible. So looking at some of the items that we've done, and this is looking at, I guess, the resource reduction projects that we've implemented. You know, one thing we looked at in some detail is water harvesting, water recycling, and we looked at rainfall. And indeed, it obviously rains quite a bit in Ireland, but, you know, this has proved to be a very difficult item for us to, I suppose, deliver on, because it really doesn't rain as much as people think, and it's a very difficult resource to gather. And even then, there's other complexities when we try to use it down the line. We've looked at water reuse within our production facilities. That obviously has other issues in terms of quality and other product-related challenges. But we're taking our time. We're going at this slowly, and we're trying to come up with new ways to deliver water recycling. So I'm just going to go back up there again into this slide. Communication, as I've gone through, incredibly important in terms of metrics, providing responsibility for our operators, changing attitudes throughout the company. And indeed, we want to always try and bring people together, and we've done this a number of times, both in the UK and in Ireland, bringing all our facilities together, sharing ideas, and allowing sites to, adopt different initiatives from different sites on the back of coming together. Optimizing our resources. Again, you can see the areas we focused on are hot water. They give us a high impact in terms of energy reduction and water reduction. And indeed, when we look at the final slide, and this is very important in terms of the supply chain, the wider challenge that's facing ABP. And you can see the highest number on that sheet is in terms of beef production, and that's for a 300-gram steak. So it's approximately 15,000 litres per kilogram. And that's all, relative to the region in the world where the beef is raised and processed and produced. And one thing that we're looking at now is, with an R&D farm in the Republic of Ireland, and indeed an organic beef farm as well, we're looking to adopt water sustainability practices and be able to roll that out onto some of our other farms that supply it. So we want to try and do it first on our own farms and roll that out then across the board. Now, we're talking about 2 farms. We have, 2,000 supplying one facility. It's going to take us a long time to start impacting on the wider supply chain issues. But we're looking at that. We're trying to link with EWS. We're trying to link with the Irish Food Board in terms of the work that they have done and roll out a model that can be implemented and deliver greater reductions in terms of water across the whole beef sector. So with that, folks, thanks very much again for the opportunity to speak. I'm happy to hand back over to the guys, and any questions, happy to answer at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ken and Barry, for your presentation and showing us that basically everything comes together in the meat industry if it's coming to reducing the footprint. Now I'd like to move forward to Stefano Nicoletto from Steel Nordic, and he will give us a presentation, a short pitch about his technology. So the floor is yours, Stefano.
Hi there, can you hear me? Hello?
We can, yes.
We can. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me, and I'm very glad and I'm proud to introduce you my company, Steel Nordic, that is in Denmark. I've been set up 4 years ago. It's a startup and is a member of Clean Cluster, Denmark. We are working on several projects, and today I want to introduce you our MFW, that is a technical solution machine that is applied for the waste management. In this case, for food chain waste management, because with the food chain waste has to be, of course, recycled somehow. And what can we do with the recycling? We need better have a solution to have a circular economy done. In our case, our solution is to connect in this case, the meat waste and the recycling to our bio separator and smart reactor that provide a perfect solution, closing solution without any waste or pollution left in the process, but it works through force of gravity and working through the sedimentation of the process meanwhile proceeding. It is a biomechanical system that provides heat, provides high temperature, and with this high temperature we can achieve energy production like electricity and thermal energy. Of course, it's a brand new technology that has been priced 44 times by the EU in this past years, and this last November had been priced by the Italian President of the Republic for the best innovative solution for waste management in this case. Of course, it's important to find the right solution. And this technology is very flexible and can be customized to any customers because it goes and it meets the necessity and the requirements for each customer. It can be set up in containers, 6-foot containers that provide this mobility and easy way to utilize. What can I say? This process treated the waste in a very natural way, and this very natural way gives us the chance to have a very final result that can be compost for the farm market. In this case, our separator attached to a small reactor works over the process using water in its biomechanical environment. The machine can be customized, as I said, in a 60-foot container, easy to transport, and it requires only one worker to make the system work. So even the training for the worker is very easy, and it can be, can be provided as solutions like that relate to the waste management for end users. What is the advantage of this technology? This technology advantages are four. The first one is production of both thermal and electric energy. Second point is the energy produced can be sold in the market, so profit from reselling, or this energy obtained can be sent in the production system, reducing the energy cost, talking about industrial accountability. The final product obtained by this biomechanical process is compost that can be sold in the farm market, as I said before. This is a brand new technology that is already working after 3-year test and is a full service in Northeast Italy and Israel right now. Of course, still Nordica, being in Denmark and located in Denmark, is going to propose the technology all the food chain and also all the food network users, like hospital or like schools and so on. It's a new process and it's very, 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 very inviting. I think to have been said everything, and I'll let you for the question later on. Thank you for listening to me, and hopefully my speech was clear. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Stefano, for your presentation. I just want to mention that to everybody that all presentations will be shared on the website, provided that the speakers, of course, agree with the slides being published on the website. Now I'd like to move on to Sandra Tornos from Atria. Yeah, Sandra, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to present Atria. We are an innovative research and development engineering here from Zaragoza, from Aragon, Spain. And our main activity is to solve industrial problems or make improvements in processes and products through the use of new technologies. We carry out research and development projects, and our projects have as an aim and objective industrial problems or make improvements in processes, as I said before. At Atria, we work for both large and large companies and SMEs. For this, we adapt to the function or role required by our client or our customer. We can perform tasks of our research and development departments of a specific area of knowledge that our client or customer does not have, or serve as a support for specific projects. And our projects are developed in the field of digitalization and 4.0 factories and the development of new materials or new products or the materials improvement too. In our projects, we carry out the transfer and of technology and knowledge to our customers. In addition, we also promote the realization of intersectoral projects for companies that are not competitors from us. Here we have a slide and we have a summary of our history. Asia was founded in 2014 in Zaragoza. Now we are 14 employees and we are industrial engineers, material engineers, electronic, automatic and chemical engineers too. We have carried out more than 19 projects with success, and we have carried projects in China and Europe, and finally we have an extensive network of technology that we work with integrators and providers to, and very important for us. Here we have a slide that we want to explain why we are different. This is because in Asia we are flexible with flexibility for actually adapting projects both technically and functionality to the needs of our customers, and not only we do projects in phases following our method, but we are to the way of our clients too. As I said in the slide before, we want to structure our projects in 4 main phases. The objective of this structuration is to reduce the risks of the project or of our customers or our clients. So, what are our expectations from VIDA? We want to present our idea, we want to create a consortium with other companies from the European Union, and we want to know other companies to present that idea. We want to explain who we are, what we do, and our idea. We work in 2 areas, materials engineering and smart factories. But today we are going to talk from the materials engineering area. Here, the area of materials, we intend to add value to products. We bring differences that make them more valuable and improve the final product too. In this way, we give them an added value to differentiate themselves from their competitors. So we offer our customers our knowledge and our experience to develop and customize new solutions. In the materials engineering area, we work in 4 different areas too, with our functional phases, with coatings, surface treatments and activations, and polymers additions too. Paints and inks, we formulate and modify paints and inks. We improve the adhesion of these ones. And in the forensic engineering area, we try to develop a personalized test or custom test to our customers. And in the Agile Eco, we work with the material valorization by fibers, by components, and circular economy. In the materials engineering, in the functional surfaces area, we work with a lot of different applications what are easy to clean, anti-fingerprint, condensation, thermochromic, alkaline, auto-cleaning, anti-corrosion, and anti-scratch. Here for the meat processing industry, we propose a new theme that we have developed for other industries that is the microstructuration of the stylus steel. In this case, another of the technologies that we use too for the functional surfaces, as I said in the previous slide, is the laser microstructuring. With the laser microstructuring, special patterns are created on metal surfaces with different sizes depending on the functionality that is desired. By means of this functionality, the need to clean surfaces or allow it to be cleaned in an easier way can be eliminated. So in this way, we can save water. Okay, as I said before, we create a pattern on the metal surface. In this case, we avoid nesting of bacterial cells in valleys, and we create nice structures to the sliding. To slide the water, to slide dirty or something like that. In this slide, we have final images of the nanostructure metal which are making, And here in the right image, we have a perfilometry equipment, photography, to see the surface, the final surface of the metal. As I said before, we work in the smart factories too. We work with computer vision, augmented reality, robotics, and laser. The main applications are ergonomics, to improve the ergonomics of operators in fabrics, improvement cycle times, complex task automation, and many various processes of automation. We have a laboratory, so we can make some tests. We have spray chamber, coating, DVD, calibration equipment for the material area too. As I said before, in the Industry 4.0 lab, we have lasers, inkjets, industry robotic arms, collaborative. So that's all. Thanks for the opportunity, and if you have any questions, thumbs up.
Perfect. Thank you, Sandra, for the presentation. Now I'd like to move on to our last presenter of today, whom I would like to especially welcome because he's calling in from Canada, and I believe it's almost 5 o'clock in the morning there. I would like to give the floor to Craig Hodgkins from NRO.
Yeah, I was going to say good morning is relative, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, good morning though, and thanks for having me. My name again is Craig Hodgkins. I'm calling from NRO. We're a full-service wastewater solutions company. We are based in Canada, where I am now, but also in the Netherlands, where I actually live in Eindhoven. We're focused on circular economy, but particularly on industrial organic effluents and domestic organic effluents. In the food and beverage sector, we've been working extensively in the craft food sector. In North America, as some of you may be aware, we have quite a booming craft beer industry. And we've been working extensively with craft breweries, which in North America can be the size of regional European breweries, to help them identify, to help deploy technologies like aerobic membrane bioreactors that are scaled, so to provide cost-effective solutions for on-site wastewater treatment, but also on-site water reuse, recovering of concentrate from reverse osmosis to reduce water consumption, and also recovering CIP chemicals. On the land development area, which I alluded to, which is domestic wastewater, what we call for hotels, resorts, small communities, casinos. We work to recover water from the wastewater in water-stressed areas so that it can be reused in the facilities. So you'll see this in California, extensively in the Caribbean, and that's kind of what we do. NRO is focused on wastewater treatment, but in a way that can recover resources and provide a payback for the customer. So that's why I've chosen this graphic here, just to summarize us in one page. But today we'll be talking about the nutrient recovery part of the project. Oh wait, I use these arrows as I was before. Yeah. So today I want to talk about the ECOTHOR electrolysis technology platform. ECOTHOR is a technology that we've been working with out of Canada. So we partnered with them about 2 years ago to start bringing their technology to the food and beverage sector. ECOMetrics is based in Quebec. They've had some success developing the technology, but also demonstrating it. It's based on electrocoagulation with using a patented magnesium anode and power system to focus on phosphorus and ammonia treatment and recovery. So using this technology platform, we can treat the ammonia and phosphorus to take it out of solution and recover it as a struvite. Let's just go through to the next slide. So what makes ECOMetrics and ECOTHOR different is a couple things. One, being based on electrocoagulation instead of a fluidized bed reactor, such as other technologies that you might be aware of, such as Ostara Wineries. We're not limited in size, so we don't need a critical mass in terms of what wastewater effluents we can treat. I'll come to that later, but also we have the flexibility to treat to non-detectable levels. So you see a few here. The main focus of the company, of the technology, is phosphorus and nitrogen, also fat oils and grease, but I'll talk about phosphorus and nitrogen because that's the main discussion today. What you see here is the demonstration we did for Parks Canada. In Canada, particularly in our federal areas, we have quite high strict nutrient limits. I know European Union has quite some high limits as well, but this one is quite strict as well. So we were able to demonstrate that we could take the phosphorus down to less than 0.02 milligrams per liter. And that was on a flow of less than 3 cubic meters per day. So I alluded to it before. We don't use a large fluidized bed reactor. So because we're using electrocoagulation, we're able to scale our reactor sets in different configurations that allow us to treat, effectively down to 4 cubic meters a day, up to 4,000 cubic meters a day economically. That's the real sweet spot that we find for this technology because, as I mentioned before, we've been working a lot with the craft food industry, and a lot of new technologies can work very well, or can at least deploy and demonstrate at massive levels. But obviously, a lot of the food chain, a lot of the food production is still in medium and small scale facilities. Even in large companies, they're still spread out. So this we see as an opportunity to deploy across the food chain and really scale with the facilities and unlock a larger base of applications. The technology has been already deployed for municipal wastewater. So I mentioned Parks Canada. Also, the town of Sherbrooke, which is a reasonably large municipality, has been piloting it for the last 6 months to good results on both primary and tertiary treatment. Mining wastewater, we've taken it to a large diamond mine, and it will be deployed to treat the ammonia of the blasting water. But what we really see for the technology is the food and beverage sector. We did some preliminary testing in the meat industry, as you'll see in the top right corner, also in the dairy and cheese industry. But this is why we're here today to pitch is we see the VIDA technology project to be a real benefit for us in the ability to not only find potential demonstrations, but to secure the financial support to really study the technology and really map out the economical benefits of the technology, because in the end that's what's going to help it stand on its own 2 feet. Is how can it address this problem of micronutrients and nutrient pollution in a cost-effective way, which helps the producers stay compliant, but also is able to return that nutrient back to the food chain in form of a fertilizer. So that's my pitch. I think I'm still in time. Yeah. So that's my pitch, and I'd be happy to take questions after the webinar.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Craig. Thank you to everybody who's presented and those who have been listening. If there's any questions, then this is the moment to raise them. And you can do so by using the chat on the right side of your screen. I don't see any questions. I don't see anyone typing. So I take it there's no questions. Then I would like to thank you everybody for, well, again, the presenters for presenting their presentations and their pitches, and those who've been listening for joining us today. I'd like to inform you that the next webinar will be next week, Tuesday, and the topic will be again the wine and brewing industry. I see one question from Clara. Craig, maybe you can answer that.
Yes, we're interested in the demo voucher to underwrite the cost of a study, but we're also looking for trying to meet food processors in the European Union who are concerned about phosphorus, looking at phosphorus recovery and scalable phosphorus recovery technologies to secure sites to demonstrate. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see Mr. Peretta typing. All right, I have to rectify what I just said. The next webinar will be not on the wine and beer industry, but will be on aquaculture. Having said that, I don't think there's any more questions. So thank you everybody for listening, and hopefully we can welcome you again next week, Tuesday, same time, same place. Thank you.